Good morning, friends, and welcome to Take Two for this Tuesday, the 13th of November, 2018. I'm Jeannie. I'm glad to be with you. Well, yesterday I was getting ready to call it a day, and I was doing my last bits and pieces, cyber bits and pieces, and I saw two notifications there, and they were from two different people, two different women who live in two different places who do not know one another, but they both gave me the same piece of news, and that was that their mother had died yesterday. I just thought, isn't that something? Just a coincidence now. I mean, it's not that there was any way that this was connected to each other. They both just happened to have sick mothers who both died the same day. And of course, whenever that happens, there's always that kind of upheaval that starts again, and I start thinking because, my mom, we lost her in June, and so there's still some little bits and pieces that seem to, just arise that get that going. I was in the mall the other day, and I ran into somebody I had not seen in a while, and she stopped me, and she said, oh, how are you? It's good to see you. How's your mother? And of course, she didn't know. So, I mean, she was just being nice. To her, it was just, she was asking about that nice little lady that I used to bring in with a wheelchair. And I said, oh, well, we lost her in June. She said, oh, my goodness, I'm so sorry. And so, I mean, she was just trying to be nice. But still, it's one of those kathunk moments that you just go, So anyway, before I even found out this news yesterday, I was talking with my sister on the telephone, and we go to each other and we discuss these things, particularly because there's still so much stuff that needs to be done with the settling of my mother's affairs and so forth. But we talked, a big chunk of our conversation was about grief and coping mechanisms and so forth. And I realized, that we all grieve in different ways. Some people cry, some people don't. Some people scream and have tantrums all the time, or they, they go through different things. Some people have nothing happen to them. And we have to remember and be sensitive that there is no right or wrong way to grieve. There's no definite way that you should go about things. Now, I will say this, it is important to deal with the situation. Just the way you respond may be different. I highly encourage you that if you're in a grief situation right now, whether it's a parent, a child, a best friend, a spouse, even a pet, I would say this to you. Find people who could be encouraging to you, and especially if you need to, go to some professionals or a support group where they could give you encouraging and serious coping mechanisms that you can help to go through the process. See, here's the situation. It's basically this, and that is that some people just think they can push it under the carpet, and if they forget about it, then it'll just go away. Well, we know that's not necessarily true. We know that we need to actually deal. So that's my word to you today. I was going through a few, and I had brought home a couple of bags and a couple of boxes of things on my last trip to New York when we cleaned out the house, the family home, and there was some stuff I hadn't even really looked through, just a few things. And one of the things I happened upon was my mother's old business card that my father had laminated. She was a travel agent part-time, and he had had it laminated and turned into a luggage tag. And I just looked at it. I happened to see it this morning, and I just was like, oh, it was just one of those things where I thought, oh, look at that. And my sister told me that she was walking through a grocery store in recent days, and a grocery store that carried a product that my mother couldn't readily find, or it was too expensive, or for whatever reason, it was this chocolate pudding that she liked so much. And my sister used to buy her bulk amounts, like she'd buy her a dozen boxes at a time or that kind of thing. And she said she just tugged on her husband and said, Scott, look, milk. Aw, it's the pudding. So, you know, sometimes we have those moments, and you know what? That's okay. And I'll tell you what, even if you shed a tear or two, that's okay. You know, there's a movie years ago about a little boy who lost his mother, that she died, and he was only like 5 or 6 or 8 years old, whatever he was. And he just doesn't respond to it. He doesn't cry. He doesn't do anything at all. And his father is very, very concerned. His relatives are concerned because this little boy's not shedding any tears. And then about 6 months after she dies, his goldfish dies in his goldfish tank in his bedroom, and he goes berserk and he starts screaming and crying. And at first the father's like, why are you crying over a goldfish? And then the aunt or the neighbor says, don't you understand what's happening? He never shed a tear for his mother. He's finally ready to shed a tear. And sometimes it takes different people different amounts of time to go through things like this. So I'm going to encourage you today, a couple things. First of all, if you know somebody who's going through something like this and it's getting like out of control, where they're just completely out of control, that they're crying constantly or things like that, then I do encourage you about this, okay? Encourage your friend, or even if it might be you, to seek some really good professional help, okay? See a doctor, see a professional counselor, and go about trying to get some help like that. But if you are in the process mode right now, maybe it's somebody who even died a few years ago and you never actually dealt with it. Maybe you are now getting to the point where you're seeing your goldfish and you're starting to cry, okay? This is what I would encourage you to do if you're in that mode, and that is go ahead, join a support group. Now, don't just go to people who are going to pat you on the back and say, there, she's in a better place, or there, you know, she's got wings like angels. And I don't, you know, I mean, just be careful, because people, well-meaning people, say stuff like that, and it's not helping you a lot of times, okay? So I am encouraging you to find people that you can trust. Go to your siblings, go to others, loved ones, go to good friends, go to your spouse, and say, listen, I need some help with this. I need to get through this. I need some help getting through this, okay? That's a way that you can be an encouragement to somebody. And you know what? You may end up being the only one who is. So go encourage somebody, or if you're the one who needs the encouragement, make sure you seek out the right ones, your pastor, some friends. And if you don't go to church and you don't know where there might be a grief support group, call your local United Way. Check with nonprofit organizations. Call a suicide prevention hotline. Call them and say, hey, listen, I know I'm not suicidal. However, I am going through a grief situation. Can you recommend somebody? You'd be amazed at how much help is out there, okay? All right, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Jeanne Sigler, Jeannesigler. Click the subscribe button, and please do tune in to my radio station at WRMZ.org and click the listen button. Okay, everybody, I love you very much. I think I'm just going to take a moment, and I think I'm just going to kind of look at this a little bit, and I may shed a tear or two, but you know what? That's okay. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you all very much. Bye-bye.